Hey everyone, Aaron here. Welcome back to the channel. Hey, banging out this roll cage on this Nova. We worked on it pretty hard this week and we made some progress. Um, Pretty much for the most part, it's almost done, other than these bars here. And as I said before, um, we put these in last, but actually I could have had these made already, but we left them out purposely because we got to go in here and do the tin work. And since we're going to be crawling in and out here, we leave this bar out and these bars out, and we'll do them very last thing. But anyways, everything's pretty much welded up at this point, and the best thing about this video is the suspension is done. And that's really what we worked on hard this week, and got the suspension 100% done, other than the tabs for the anti-roll bar links, and that's nothing. But as you can see here, we got the upper shock mounts down. We'll walk around and I'll show you that. But got the cage welded, put that X in there, and we started doing the cross member for, we're going to end up putting the parachute in, like I said, and then we're going to also make the anchor part of it removable, and we'll have the parachute, and then we'll be able to pull that off and put a hitch on. If we decide, or if we sell this car and then the customer decides to do drag week or something, they can put a hitch in there and they can tow a trailer with it. But anyways, what I'm gonna do is I got Charles here behind the camera, and I'm gonna bend down here. I'm gonna show you the suspension, and we actually got the track locator done, and I did it in the X fashion that I mentioned in a couple videos back, and it turned out pretty sweet. And you're gonna see how I did it, and also you're gonna see why I wanted to do it, because it's really rigid the way it is. And then we'll give you a shot of how the shock mounts are, and the shocks are going to be through the trunk like I mentioned before, and then we'll walk around and I'll show you that. But for right now, Charles, let's bend down. I'm going to show you guys the suspension, and if you can see here, so this is X'd like I mentioned. We welded tabs here right on the bottom of this anti-roll bar, and then I actually made bungs, threaded bungs, and I machined them into the bottom of the ladder bar there. And the reason why I had to put this on the bottom of the ladder bar, whereas conventionally it would be typically on the front mounting hole of the ladder bar, but I couldn't do that because the way the floor is and the way the ladder bars are up inside the car, the track locator would hit the floor, so there was no way to do it that way. So I came up with this method and dropped it down below, which it's still higher than the frame rail, which is awesome. And the reason for all this is because the body is low. Like, we lowered the ride height of this car, and so basically the suspension is up inside the car, and that's why we had to do these things like this. This is the first time I ever did it like this, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But pretty slick, and it's going to be really rigid with this X. And the way it is with these heim joints, there's going to be no bind with it. We've already moved the suspension up and down, and it works really smooth. Another thing I want to point out is the rear shocks, how we mounted the shocks. Again, like I mentioned, it's through the floor, kind of like an old Super Street car. And the top of the shock will be inside the trunk, and so we'll do the shock adjustment for the extension. You know, it will be right behind the fuel cell, and then the bottom will be underneath the car here. So I'm pretty happy with this. It turned out pretty sweet. We're getting really, really close here to taking it off this jig. I'm going to show you here in the back what we're working on, and then when that's done, which will be next week, we should be able to take it off the jig, and we'll do all the tin work, you know, off this jig, and we'll be able to get in here easier. But the only thing left on the suspension would be the links for this anti-roll bar. We're going to weld some tabs off the side of the frame rail here and make the links, and that's all. And the suspension is 100% done. And that turned out pretty cool. So now I'm going to come in the trunk here and show you what we're working on. So we cut this out. This is going to be all welded up and it's smoothed out. And then we made this. I actually made a video of me making this anchor here. I machined this hole in here prior to putting this in. And I did this on the mill. And the reason why I did that is because I can make the anchor part on the mill at a later date. And it's going to be totally, you know, the hole's going to line up perfect because I used the computer indicator to line this up to drill the hole. So I know this is dead center. And when I machine the slip fit tube that goes in here, and I move over and drill that, it's going to fit perfectly in there. That's why I like doing things on the mill like that. But anyways, this will be welded up, all sanded smooth. We'll cut a hole in here, and then this will slide through there and go down in there. And then this will stick right inside the bumper, like I mentioned before. You'll be able to pull down the license plate on the bumper, and the anchor will be here, and we'll be able to put the bolt in right there. So you'll just reach up behind the bumper, and you'll be able to take the parachute off or put on the hitch. And then the next thing is, once this tube is in there, I already bent the tube. I have tubes that bend up from here to there, and then some gussets down to this frame, and then the cage is done. We'll take it off the jig here. Another thing we'll do is once these are welded in, we'll box this in with sheet metal. And I'm also going to box this corner in here, and this will be all smoothed out when it's all said and done. When the tubs are in there, this will be boxed in, this will be boxed in, and the trunk will look smooth again, kind of, you know, with the factory look. Obviously, it's not going to be totally factory, but that's the look I want. I want it to look like it wasn't really like a back half car. You know, retaining the, you know, part of the original frame rail, and the trunk is gonna allow us to do that. And then in the end, we'll spatter paint this, so when you pop the trunk, it'll look, you know, have a somewhat factory look to it. And that's what I'm looking for. That's the look I want with this car. And then we'll do a sheet metal firewall. It'll have like the stock shape, and we'll do that firewall, and that will be behind the seat. When we ultimately put the seat in there, you know, they'll have that firewall in there for safety. But until we put the seat in there, we'll be able to race it if we want without the seat. But I'll try to get the seat in there because I really want the back seat in there. And then it'll be full carpet in there, and I'll have the stock door panels and things like that as well. But that's pretty much it, man. We're really close on this right now, man. We're ready to get this thing off the jig, and once the chassis is done, we're going to do the tin on it, And from there, we're going to get it right on that rotisserie and start doing the paint work. And once that's done, it's all downhill. We'll really crank out, that. Actually, one more thing I want to walk back into the front that I didn't mention that I want to show you guys, these bars I put into the cross member. And something that's important here that I wanted to show you guys. On the ladder bar car, this cross member here wants to basically rip out of the car from the forces of the suspension. Now, because this body is lowered, the ladder bar is up right now, but a lot of cars you'll see the ladder bar will typically be on the lower holes, and these brackets will be hanging down lower. And if you don't have this braced, when the car launches, it tries to push the cross member forward and up. And usually what I would do on a typical car that's not this low, I would weld a tube on the back side of this on an angle to like the outer frame rail or the frame connector or whatnot. But I really couldn't do it on this one because the crossmember is so high up in the car. So what we did is we tied this bar, which is required anyways, right into the crossmember and into the side of this bracket, which is going to help it from twisting out of the car. That bracing on this is very important, guys. If you guys are going to build you a ladder bar car, on the back side of your bracket, whether it's in the car or under the car, you need to have some kind of gusset or brace, because your crossmember will try to rip out. It will try to, over time, it will try to just rotate it out like that. And I fixed many cars over the years with that same problem. But this tying in like we did and welding to the side is going to help us prevent that from happening. But that's just something I wanted to point out. You know, if you guys are doing ladder bar cars, make sure you brace that bracket in some fashion, because it will try to rotate out. But that's it, guys. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the comments and all the likes and subscribes that I've gotten, and actually got quite a few over the past week. So it's been great. So we're gonna keep doing these videos, and again, thank you. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.